You are listening to In the Making with Mander. I'm your host, Amanda Roy, also known as Mander. And I'm here today with my friend Kolton Harris, and we're going to talk about some art.
Let's do it.
What's up, Kolton?
How you doing?
I'm doing well.
Thanks for letting me come sit on this sacred couch. I'm a
I'm
big
glad you're
fan of the
here.
show and everything that you're doing, so it means a lot.
Yeah, thanks for being here.
Yeah, of
It's
course.
exciting. I'm ready to talk about all the things that are Kolton Harris because
Yeah.
we've got a lot. You're a multifaceted artist.
I try my best.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're doing well. You're
No,
doing
thank
well.
you. Thank you. Yeah.
All right, so let's get into it.
Yeah. Where you want to start?
Who is Kolton Harris? Who are you as an artist?
Yeah, it's a fascinating question. I think it's one that I'm constantly processing because I feel like so much of my creative practice and process and journey as a human is really synthesizing all of my influences, but then trying to find where my voice comes through. And I think I've been constantly going through the reinvention process, which I'm sure you can identify with when you're entering into new life spaces or challenges happen and things go. So I think I've really been leaning into this concept and idea of Renaissance and being a Renaissance man and thinking about how storytelling is at the anchor of everything that I do. So if I had to define who I am as an artist, I'm a storyteller, and that expresses itself through multiple mediums, some that I'm not very good at, but I try my best, and that's kind of where I am.
Awesome. And so, I mean, that moves into dance, and you're a musician in multiple ways, a vocalist and an instrumentalist.
Yeah.
And
As are you. You got the drums, right?
I pretend that
Let's
I'm a
go.
drummer.
Let's go.
Yeah. And you're also a drummer.
Yeah, that's where I started.
Yeah.
Music for me like starts with drums and rhythm and music, and that a lot of that was contributed to just. I have a cousin who, so I'm an only child. My parents had me, and they were like, "Yo, we can't anymore. Like this is it." But I have an older cousin who's like a brother, and he is an incredible drummer and musician. But when I was a kid, I wanted to do everything that he did, and he hated that. I'm sure for a lot of time, just having this pestering
Like older
little kid.
siblings.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like, oh my gosh. And he's the youngest of his siblings, so he thought he was free. But I came along, and but he played drums in our grandfather's church, and just so inspired by that and wanting to do that. And he would never teach me, so I had to just sit next to him and kind of mimic him, and that's where like music started for me.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
See, I
See?
get to learn all these
Look,
new things
new
about people
facts.
that I've known for years.
Yeah, the
when
different
we sit here.
layers that kind of come through. So yeah, that's where music started for me.
Wow. And is there anything that, like right now, is really pulling you into a certain mode of creation or something that's like driving you, like burning inside of you that needs to get out? Like so many artists, we have something that's like bubbling inside of us, and then we have to get it out there.
Yeah.
What's like bubbling in
Yeah,
you right now?
I feel an intense burning to. There's a few different stories that I really want to tell, but I feel like more than the stories, I've been in a very deep obsession with just the craft of both like music and filmmaking, especially, and just wanting to get as many reps as possible to really refine the craft because I'm so fascinated with not just how we tell stories or what stories we tell, but the intersection of those points and thinking about this beautiful science of technique, but really ultimately our audiences and who we engage with and even ourselves as artists, right? We're so driven by just like the feeling that it gives because I know that I'm releasing a song, millions of other people are releasing a song at the same time, which is a beautiful thing, but it's also a great tension, I think, as artists. And I'd be curious from like your perspective and the disciplines you dance in, like how the oversaturation of the market or the space kind of impacts kind of where you are. But I think there's such a challenge to both stand out, but also tell stories that feel authentic to self and not be too influenced by what other people are doing. I think there's a beautiful spirit of like I want to be feed off of and be in conversation with others, but sometimes, especially in the social media space, at least on my algorithm, there's this pressure of like, hey, we're highlighting this because you need to be this or to do this, and I think I'm trying to. My burning desire right now is to like make sure that I'm telling the stories that I want to tell, how I want to tell them. That's kind of like where I am. So I'm working on a few different projects right now, that are very compelling to me, that are really challenging and rich, both in the film and in the music space. But I just want to do more, and it's never moves fast enough for me. I don't know. How about you, especially because like you are in this really dynamic process of like working with collaborating with nature and making things across the board. I'm not making cameras or making instruments, so I don't really know that part of it. But yeah, like for you, like as you kind of cultivate your work, like how are you dealing with what feels like all of the noise of like this is how you need to create or you
Right.
should do it this way, especially in your process?
Yeah, I think so. When I started this process of being a natural
Mm,
pigment artist,
mhm.
my intention was never to share my work with anybody. It
Wow.
was always to keep it for me. It was a way for me to process whatever I was feeling or whatever
Mm,
I wanted to get out there. And
yeah.
I was just and I created so much work.
Mm,
And then a friend who's an artist was like, Amanda, you need to put your work out there. Like
wow.
people should see this. Nobody's doing what you're doing.
Mm,
And I was like, I don't know. I'm like, it's like really personal to me
mm,
because I try to just create the most authentic work because that's when it's going to be
mm.
real and that's when it's going to, and that ends up being what people feel the most, right? When
Wow.
I'm
Wow.
creating the most authentic work. And so then I ended up putting my art in a show. I got into my first show in September of 2024, and that ended up spinning into solo shows that I got in 2025 because people came to that show, saw that work,
Mm,
and were like, I feel something in your work that I don't feel in other art.
yeah.
And I think for me also, there aren't a whole lot of natural pigment artists. So when people
You're the only one
hear
I know.
when people hear that I make my own ink, they're like, what is even
Mm,
that?
mm,
So I think that helps me, but I always need to focus on what is the most authentic to me. And I feel like I see that in your work.
mm.
And, we connect on that in terms of, Auston Phoenix,
Yeah, yeah.
which is, I don't know, is it an alter ego? Is it like
Yeah,
who is Auston Phoenix? Because
yeah,
there's
yeah.
there's this connection of what I've processed in my own personal life that
Mm,
comes through in my work that has a lot to
mm,
do with rebirth and
mm,
starting over and renewal.
mm.
That's most of my pieces actually are
Yeah.
about that.
No, it's really, yeah, it's a powerful question. So I think a part of my artistic journey has been exploring my limitations and exploring the root of my limitations. And I think one of my biggest challenges has been uh, myself, right? And the way that I've internalized narratives about my capacity, my capabilities, or internalizing narratives that are out there. And I think that as a part of that wrestle, I mean, my childhood was largely defined by my obsession with superheroes and comic books. Me in college, I did my senior thesis on Black masculinity and comic book superheroes. So I'm like very entrenched in that world. This idea of creating uh, another vessel for the consciousness to live, so that it can be liberated. And that at the core for me was a big part of my journey. So I've been working on this body of work and music for some time, off and on, different things kind of coming up, and it just never felt like me, in that way. And I wanted to create in a way that felt supernatural, that felt super heroic, not driven by ego by any means, but driven by this willingness to step in as a vessel of service to larger creative conversations to liberate other people like me who feel inadequate or insufficient. And kind of when you put the armor on and you become someone else, it kind of helps the mindset. But yeah, it's been a deep sort of conversation with myself. I mean, I've never said it out loud to many people, but even the whole like concept of Austin Phoenix was never meant to be a a stage name or an alter ego. I have been like making advances to, at some point in the soonish time, like change my name, because there's so much about who, and I'm grateful for my name, but there's so much about it that felt constricting to me. Preconceived notions that people have of me, or experiences that people have, and even my own experience with myself. And so some of it was me running away from me, but running towards a more authentic, grounded version of myself. And kind of the Phoenix has always been an image that's been so powerful to me, because of even my faith practice of thinking about death and resurrection and renewal, and wanting to really be a part of that and make sure that I was creatively, but also emotionally, mentally, physically aligned with this new chapter. So that's like the larger
That's
sort of
hugely powerful.
things. Yeah, the
Colton,
thing.
wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. So I'm in the middle of. I feel like, right, like that butterfly transformation. Like I'm still in the cocoon in some ways, kind of breaking out. But I don't want to prematurely push myself to something. A story I heard many years ago, my father told me, is that there was this man was walking in nature and just sort of exploring. He was a journalist or something of that nature, but a photographer, and he saw this like butterfly almost out of the cocoon, but it was struggling to get out. And to help it, he kind of helped release it. He said the butterfly started to fly and moved, and then next thing you know, the butterfly died, and it was because he interrupted the process. So I'm trying not to interrupt my process.
Just kind of letting it
Yeah.
organically flow
Yeah.
without trying to let your mind, because sometimes our mind can get in the way of ourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think sometimes that can get in the way of our art creation, right? It's the kind of thing that can really hinder us and lead us to not making the most authentic work.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah. And that's what ends up, yeah, I don't know, just kind of throws you off a little bit and can cause creative block. Yeah. Creative block.
Yeah.
You get that? You got to get it. A little bit?
A little bit.
Try not to.
Yeah, try not.
Awesome. Yeah. All right.
Well, let's talk about block.
Let's
I'm
talk.
interested. I'm interested for you. What, when, like, do you experience creative blocks? And then also, like, have you diagnosed as to, like, why?
I do experience creative blocks. Yeah. And I've had a few people say, I can't believe that you have that. Like, you're always moving and going. And it's like, yeah, but if I'm feeling overwhelmed in certain ways, sometimes the best thing for me to do when I'm overwhelmed is to create, because it helps me process the overwhelm. But if I'm feeling overwhelmed in other ways, then I'm not creating in the most authentic way. And I think for me, I have been creating work in collaboration with other artists, which I absolutely love doing. Yeah. But sometimes I get in my head about it saying, are they going to like it?
Yeah.
Like, if I create this piece of work for them, if I'm working with a musician and I'm creating a piece of work for them, and then I get in my head and say, I don't know if they're going to like this.
Yeah.
And that will make me stop working for like a week, and I won't touch anything. But I have to get myself back into the space of saying, like, they want to work with me because they like what I do. So whatever it's going to be, just let it be. And I just have to get my brain back into that space.
That's really fascinating, because I feel like I was curious too, because I think I've been in a space of trying to analyze what do we mean when we say writer's block or creative block, because I think in my own life, I think a lot about and try to stay in my imaginative purity that was really in its full expression in my childhood, and recognizing that, especially as an only child, I had to, like, so I was born in Boston. All of my cousins and family was there most of my childhood. We moved to Connecticut when I was about 8 officially. So I didn't grow up with my family we would go visit holidays and stuff. But being by myself for a lot of time, my imagination was constantly on go. I was making up games and creating stories and watching things and transmitting it. And I never experienced block then. So I think that my mission now, and as I've been like analyzing it more and thinking about it, is like, okay, what state of consciousness was I in then that I can always translate to now? And I think in my own work, similar to what you were saying, is like when you kind of start to think too much. And it's weird, right? Because there is a consciousness that we have to channel as artists, right? There's a meticulous construction to it, but I think that its core and its essence has to be more instinctive. And I think that's a part of sort of my move as Auston Phoenix as well, is to just be in an instinctive space and to not um, overthink, to be intentional and to be strategic. But I think I've found for myself what's helped me stay in that flow is when I'm not in the midst of maybe creating something specific, as long as I'm like nurturing myself with content, to use that broadly, that is of that same essence and of that same nature, that's what I'll be feeding off of. But if I'm feeding off of insecurity, doubt, fear, that'll restrict and suffocate me. It's not good for our creative bodies. But if I'm like looking at your work and thinking about how courageous you are as a creator and how you're collaborating with people, then when I step into that zone, I'm able to like tap into that too, which is why for me, a lot of my time is spent listening to other artists and reading about their stories and like knowing about them, because this is like, it's not fluff. Like it's a very spiritual experience, and it's also like not the easiest path, because you do have to do what most other people are afraid to do: say the things, try the things, experiment, because the world is not really built for us to experiment. It's, you really got to really perform and perform well. And I think as artists, we're rebellious in that way, but we're also kind of the sacrifice
Yeah.
of like,
Yeah.
hey, we'll make fun of you, or like
Right.
that's dumb, or that doesn't make sense. But embracing that and saying like, yeah, I'm cool with that.
Yeah. And I think you were talking about being a kid and your imagination, and you never had block then.
Hmm.
And it's like when we're kids, we don't have either shame or we
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
have any of that like pressure yet. Peer
Mm,
pressure hasn't hit us yet, or whatever
yeah.
it might be, but we're also playing.
Hmm.
And like
Yeah.
incorporating play into my work has been
Mm.
really
What does that
important.
look like for you recently, to like to
Um,
play?
so just like throwing ink on paper and just not caring what it's going to be, right?
Mm,
Or when I make an ink, just not using any kind of utensils
mm,
to break apart pomegranates, like getting my hands in it and
yeah,
just
yeah.
being messy and just
Mm,
not caring about that kind of thing.
mm,
So having more like, I don't know, just play.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And being okay with that. Um, yeah, I think that's
yeah. Get messy and play.
yeah, get messy and play.
That's your
That's what we got
that's
to
your
do.
mantra. That's good.
Yeah,
That's
that's what
good.
we got to do. And I
Okay.
think that's when I create again at my best and my most
Mm,
authentic, because I'm
mm,
just letting it be.
mm.
And yeah, just letting it go, letting it flow.
Yeah, I gotta tap into that a little bit more, because
It's in there
yeah,
though.
yeah, it's
It's
definitely in
clearly
there.
in there.
And I feel like when I'm by myself, especially because the work that I choose to engage in is largely, it has segments of individual like exploration, but it's always almost has to be collaborative at some point. And I feel like the bridge I'm trying to cross right now is feeling really inspired and joyful when I'm by myself and making the thing, and then all of a sudden I'm about to tell someone that I'm collaborating with, and I'm like, what have I done? Like,
Yes.
what am like what it, like, hopefully they don't think it's stupid, or I find myself like sometimes dumbing down my ideas because I don't want to share them in a way, or I'm like worried about their judgment, because sometimes it's more intense for me collaborators than like even the audience. I don't know if you feel that way,
Yeah.
because audience, they're going to kind of come and go, or they may not like it, and it's fine. But you want the people that are working with you to be like, oh no, this is great, or you're great. But when you don't always know that, you're like, oh snap, like,
Yeah, it's scary. I
yeah, what have I
mean, I
done?
think creating art is one of the most vulnerable
Hmm.
practices that's out there. I
Yeah.
mean, you are putting yourself out there to whatever other people
Hmm.
might interpret it as, and that's your
Hmm.
livelihood. That's your everything. And
Hmm.
yeah, that's That's something. But I'll tell you
Yeah.
something,
Yeah.
Colton. I've been listening to Memories,
Oh,
which is
really?
the Auston Phoenix album,
Yeah.
while I work out.
No way.
Yes.
That's the
So
first I've heard. That's
so
amazing.
the last track is Light the Sky, which
Yeah.
like every time that one hits, I'm like, I am going crazy right
Let's
now.
go. It should inspire me to work out.
Yeah.
I'm slacking off.
But like there's some
yeah.
ballads in there, and it ends up like in a good flow with my workout.
Oh,
So
nice.
yeah, I've been playing it at
We
the
might
gym.
have to remarket it as like, hey, do you need a gym flow? Put on Memories.
That's
No,
right.
that means a
Yeah.
lot. I'm glad that you're
Yeah.
revisiting to it. I
Yeah.
think especially with like, for me, like music and film are the two spaces in performance, but those have been the ones that I've been most focused on. And there is something permanent about them. But I think in a fleeting sort of culture, it always still surprises me when people are like, oh, I was listening to, and I'm like, really? Because you put all this energy into the release. And then I always believe that like people look at it and then they completely forget. So when I hear things, it warms my heart of like, oh, it wasn't,
Came back.
it came back, especially when you've put so much time into it. And it's like to put something out that's just gonna keep going regardless. So thanks for listening to it. And thanks for working out.
Yeah.
I mean, you look fit. It's working out. It's
Right.
working out.
Doing the thing.
Yeah.
So is there anything you want to make sure people know about Kolton Harris and the work that you're doing?
Is there anything?
Anything you want to leave them with?
Yes. I'll leave them with like really, I think just this message of love, but not in an abstract sort of way. I think I've been thinking more and more about the distinction between like love and lust, and I think a lot of our culture perpetuates lust but calls it love, and the distinction to me is really anchored in this idea that lust is really thinking about how someone or something can serve you or how you can use them to get what you need, whether it's like a dopamine spike or to advance yourself, whereas like love is really about serving and nurturing and giving and like looking at someone or something like, how can I give? And I think that artists and creators, which are to me are all humans are creators in some way, shape, or form, or artists, but they need that love. And so what does it look like for us to be intentional about looking at other people and saying like, how can I lighten your load, or how can I make this world feel less gloomy and dark? And sometimes that's being verbal about it, because I think sometimes people have the misconceptions, probably with you as well. They're like, oh, she's on top of the world all the time. She's making stuff. She has shows. She has all the affirmation she needs and feels great all the time. And it's just playland all the time. But you're also sometimes in your process kind of freaking out. So just encouraging people to like reach out to their friends, especially those who are artists and on this path, and just speak to them, speak life to them, affirm them, and really love what they do. And I think that we'll see the fruit of that.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And it's always been the community of artists around me that keep me going in it, because there are times that it isn't all pretty and beautiful. So yeah. Thank you, Colton.
Thank you.
You're so cool. I love you so much.
I love you.
Yay. Thank you for being here.
Thanks.
And thank you for tuning in to In the Making with Mander. Check out the next episodes. We've got a whole season 2 ahead.